Look at the adjective. Play.
And I have half the brain that you do. I told you. Oh, God.
Now is the franchise going to take the Viagra?
Gonna put the butts in the seat.
Hello there, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode number 94 of Because WCW, the podcast where the big boys play. My name is the Twisted Genius Dean AS, and I'm joined as ever by my co-host. I'm just gonna call you my co-host. I'm not gonna put any hot sauce on that salad.
Oh, I like hot sauce. Metaphorically and literally, I love spicy food, and I want you to give me a big introduction.
See, I could burn you with it, or I could enhance the flavour. This is just
a power trip to you, isn't it?
Yep, definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Mr. Liam Happ. It's right up there with Mr. Conway Twitty. Watch the Family Guy.
Yeah, our intros might be starting to just jump the shark a little bit, going by that evidence.
Well, the problem we had was that we obviously always have a little bit of a chat before we start recording, and sometimes we hit gold, don't we? Where we say something and we talk about something, we say, yeah, that'd make a really good introduction. And this evening has been the exact opposite, because we've had a good conversation. But it's been hideously boring and middle-aged. We've talked about work, family, and bins and the weather.
I know we're monsters, aren't we?
Yeah, because at the moment I'm recording this looking out into my back garden as we've got a storm brewing, and I'm getting very worried about my zip-up greenhouse, the second one, having the first one been destroyed in a storm last year, and I'm hoping it doesn't get destroyed. And I speak as a man who lost virtually all his possessions in a flood several years ago.
Yeah, and
I'm scarred. I'm scarred by the weather, Liam.
It's also worth pointing out that it is currently mid-May.
Yeah.
Just to put this in context for
those of us in fucking sunshine.
Those of our listeners who are tuning in from the United States, I'm aware they have like all sorts of different weather across the states, and there's been some really extreme weather over there over the last 12 months. But yeah, we're getting mid-May storms right now, and it's a fun place to be.
It should be warm. It should be pleasant. We should be able to, sit outside, because after all, lockdown is lifting here, and restrictions are lifting in the United States as well. I know, and it does seem that we are going to be finally coming to an end of the golden age of podcasting.
Yes, it feels like, because of all that boring stuff we alluded to earlier, it feels like the golden age is coming to an end. We're just cream crackered at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, we must warn you, dear listeners, that both Liam and I are absolutely knackered this week, which probably means that we aren't going to have much patience for WCW shit.
Yeah, we are not going to suffer those bellends too much.
Listen up, slapnuts. That's right, this is Jeff Jarrett, the chosen one, and you're listening to Because WCW. Now choke on that.
There better be a bloody banquet table. That's all I'm saying.
There had better be a banquet table
to calm us down.
Woman had better get her chance to cheat like good knows what.
And flirt with Mean Gene.
Oh yes, plenty of flirt with Mean Gene. We want a nice brisk pace on this episode. There'll probably be a couple of decent length matches, but we want some nice, short, enjoyable sprints. We want Steven Regal versus Billy Kidman in 57 seconds. We want a nice breezy, because it does get it has been tougher, isn't it, in this 2-hour era. We've now done just over a month of these, and I think the last one we covered was the first one when we turned around and said, you know what, 2 hours just breezed by.
Yeah, That was, we said, yeah, the episode we're looking at today was originally broadcast 1st of July 96. So if you want to watch along with us, that's what you need to look for. And yeah, as you said, last week, the 24th of June episode, we said, yeah, that was the one that it felt like they've hit their stride on the 2-hour jobs after having lots of filler before.
Yeah, and it came down, funnily enough, it was the weird style clashes they booked in a lot of the matches that ended up creating a lot of interesting, watchable wrestling television.
Eddie
And
Guerrero v Barbarian, wasn't it? That was
yeah,
one of them.
and it's not worth getting out the old Dave Meltzer snowflakes for it, but you just watch it and you think, you know what, I enjoyed that episode of TV. And that
Yeah,
is always the barometer we try to use for these.
yeah.
Enjoying the episode of TV, especially knowing that we are watching something where we know where these feuds are headed. We don't always know exactly what the result of every match was because we don't have that encyclopedic memory of it. But there's not going to be any massively hideous surprises outside of, every now and then Jimmy Hart might fat shame a mid card wrestler, and we definitely don't remember
Yeah,
that. That's been consigned to the back of our memory. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And last week, and we won't go into too much detail actually because I've just seen that the team concerned are on the first match of this show, so we'll probably get a recap on the show anyway. But we had a tag team title change. Harlem Heat beat Luger and Sting and the Steiner brothers in a triangle match, as they call it in WCW, and have become the new tag team champions of the world.
absolutely a triangle match. Yeah, I
So
love the fact they have their own parlance for certain matches. And if we're
yeah,
covering them in WCW, absolutely. So it's a triangle match for a three-way or triple threat, as the WWE call it. A Hell in a Cell cage is caged heat. 3 stages of Hell is a triple threat theatre. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
marvelous.
Oh, and an
Well,
Iron Man match has to be called an Iron Man Challenge, which I think I actually prefer better.
yeah,
Hmm.
fair dues. Right, shall we begin? We are, of course, on 000000, and are you ready to hit play and get some burning buildings in our lives?
I've heard all my zeros, Dean. I'm ready for some burning buildings. I can't think of a better 1-2 punch.
Okay, well, we will press play in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Oh, there's buildings.
And
And
they're
now they're
now on
ablaze.
fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It's almost like clockwork. How have they not
and
apprehended this arsonist shit? He seems so
every week.
predictable. Yeah.
And Hogan is still at the start of the introductory titles.
Yeah, you'd think at the very least Hogan would be able to identify the arsonist. He's there watching it every time.
So where are we coming from this week? We're in Landover, Maryland.
Oh, wow.
Where's Landover, Maryland?
Got to be brave to go on the road to such obscure thing, although they've got a decent crowd in. Do
Yeah,
you remember when you could go on the road to such obscure places and actually guarantee a crowd like that?
yeah. Incidentally, a live update. I've just been served up a cup of tea in my WCW mug.
You are a WCW mug.
I'll
Sorry,
have
I was
to
right there.
post a picture of this.
Yeah. You've already posted a picture of the t-shirt, the glorious Because WCW t-shirt.
What a gift! What an amazing gift!
You're welcome, buddy.
That.
So there we are really on the road to Bash at the Beach. They are talking it up. It's not far away.
Yep.
They are addressing that we've got the 6-man tag as the main event. We know the personnel in the match, and here's Diamond Dallas Page with a mic.
Yeah. What's DDP?
He's moaning about the lack of the ring.
Yeah, his Battle Bowl ring has been stolen.
He wants the whole building closed. And he wants strip searches, which could turn this into a completely different type of program.
Yeah, very different.
I mean, it was around this time that Beavis and Butthead Do America was released. Do you remember that film?
Oh yeah.
With the cavity searches? Oh, but that's a funny film.
Full cavity search.
I do love daft funny, the sort of thing that most people in a public setting would try and pretend they didn't laugh at because They think it'd affect their credibility. But you go home, you watch in private, and you laugh your head off. I love a good daft comedy.
Yeah. And now here we go. We have got the recap of the tag title match from last week. So Hall and Nash come through the crowd, step over the barriers
Armed with
while
bats.
the match is going on.
Oh.
And basically, what we've got here is that everyone is facing the outsiders. Police are in the ring, and Stevie Ray rolls up Lex Luger from behind to win the tag belts. Almost an afterthought.
Yeah, like the match came to a standstill, which really drove home the seriousness of their invasions. But Stevie Ray had the wherewithal to sneak in a little roll up, and they have gone past Hall and Nash, who are like eyeing them with the bats, but they're like, yeah, we got the belts, we don't care. Which obviously would end badly for them when they did wrestle the outsiders.
Yeah. And they've just said that Hall and Nash, who they still haven't given names to, by the way, but these gentlemen, as they called them, will be around tonight. So they know that they're here, which is kind of odd because I mean, yeah, on the one hand, you want to tell people at the beginning that they're here so that people keep tuning in. But on the other hand, if these guys are outsiders invading your company, you wouldn't know that they're there, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked that touch where they wouldn't refer to them by name. It kind of just added a little bit to it, but it's always one of those situations where it's very hard to portray it as realistic because yeah, you think, well, is there a certain point where you think, why are we allowing them in on a regular basis?
Yeah. It's
Can
either that or you have it where they miraculously manage to get front row tickets for every show,
yep.
which could theoretically happen.
Can provide an update, by the way, on Scott Steiner's entrances. He's looking increasingly grumpy on his way down as a babyface, and he's looking
Very much so.
increasingly like a human-shaped balloon.
Is he looking as grumpy as you and me today?
No, we're never that grumpy. I really think, and for some reason, Booker T's on a 1990s cell phone during his entrance.
Yeah, a flip phone with an aerial. I remember them.
I mean, 4 years prior in WCW, that was like the most lethal foreign object going. Sorry, international object.
I mean, that took out a ninja.
Yeah, we've covered that episode, by the way, everyone.
That was such a good show.
Yes.
Was that Beach Blast 90? No, it wasn't Beach Blast. What was it?
Yeah, was it?
It
No,
was
Beach Blast
92.
the Iron Man Challenge.
Beach Blast was Iron Man, yeah. Super Bowl 3? 2? Super Bowl 3?
Super
Yeah.
Brawl 2, yeah. Because
2.
then they clashed in War Games at the next pay-per-view after that, Wrestle War. And then they had their Iron Man Challenge, which was pretty awesome.
Although Greg Lambert didn't necessarily agree.
Yeah, but he was he was pretty comprehensively disproved. And he did admit, to be fair, he did admit after I put in my case that yeah, maybe I had a few points. You've got to look at it from you've got to look at it in the confines of the rules, and that's the fun you can have with an Iron Man match. And that's probably why a 30-minute Iron Man match is much better than a 1 hour, because even in an environment where you might, certain times, locations, promotions where they do have the audience's attention for an hour. I remember Ring of Honor in their pomp used to run a lot of 60-minute draws, and they could do that, and they'd have the wrestlers who could pull it off. But 30 minutes, you can tell a much better story. You've got to work that time limit. So, title match to start us off.
Yeah.
And judging by the fact that it's these two, I'm guessing we are now really binning off Sting and Luger as a tag team, especially as tag champions, because obviously they've got Bash at the Beach in their sights now.
Well, yeah, I was going to say they'll be teaming up together, but yeah, I think that's the thing that they are going to be focusing as Scott
Yeah.
Steiner presses Booker T over his head quite impressively. Yeah, we are concentrating those two on the main event 6-man tag, and that frees by taking the tag belts off them, that kind of frees up the tag division to have focus elsewhere, and that focus right now is Booker T and the Steiner brothers. Sorry, Harlem Heat and the Steiner brothers even, as the top two tag teams in the division. And as Shivani just mentioned, we've got security sat around ringside, getting in the way a bit, but that's to
Yeah.
emphasise what we've seen with the outsiders, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I meant as like Stinger Luger's a ranked championship contending duo.
Oh,
As
hold
opposed
on,
to,
hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a banquet table.
do we? This is the biggest banquet table I've seen. The entire Horsemen are there.
Plus Elizabeth and Deborah and Woman.
I think Woman was she looks a little uncomfortable. I think she's struggling with standing there and not cheating.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth was entirely comfortable with her assignment of standing there and showing no emotion. Some would say that is her strength. Oh, big German.
Nice. And by that you mean a suplex, not all firm.
Well played, well played. Especially with the time, considering that Ulf Herman was a long time roster mate of yours. I was looking for the right word there. You were both on the FWA roster for the longest of times.
FWA and then 1PW, yeah.
Ah.
I loved working with Ulf.
He was so cool to
people.
speak to afterwards, yeah.
Yeah.
Very fan friendly, and obviously he was the opposite of that when he was performing, which is a great contrast.
Big suplex from Scott Steiner. And I always remember how he would he spoke perfect English, but he swore like a docker. It was incredible. It's like, I mean, I can swear in English. I couldn't swear in any other language, but Ulf could. And when we had that TV special for Bravo Revival, and he was told you mustn't swear. And I remember spending all day with him, just reminding him don't swear, and he nearly did, but he just about got away with it. Was that Colonel Rob Parker I saw?
He's scouting, it would seem, and he's already had his fair share history of Harlem Heat.
Mm.
So, but yeah, funnily enough, that story about Ulf Herman reminds me that apparently I heard through the grapevine secondhand that myself and my friends, when we were young, caused some trouble at a FWA show by swearing and shouting a lot, and we were sat really close to some TV executives who were looking it up. I don't know if there's any truth to that.
I don't know about that.
Alex Shane very openly blogged about it without actually naming us, but there were like little clues to suggest, yeah, that's exactly who he's talking about. So, yeah, all right, okay. Oh dear. So if me and my friends are the reason why FWA isn't like the number 2 promotion in the world right now, my bad. But let's be fair, that was never going to happen. Let's be honest.
Huge belly to belly suplex from Rick Steiner onto Booker T. And what was interesting there was that Rick Steiner covered him right near the ropes, and rather than putting his foot on the ropes, Booker T did a proper kick out.
There's definitely a psychology to that the commentators can latch on. I like that. It takes a lot of synchronizing, as you know. Not a lot of wrestlers have the time to go through every little bit, but sometimes commentator can pick on the difference between a 1 and 2 count between a shoulder roll and a kick out.
Yeah, definitely. I've done that in commentary myself, and I've always said a commentator should enhance the viewing experience, and that's one way you can do it by focusing on things and drawing attention to things that fans might not have picked up on their own. So we've just been told we've got John Tenter taking on the Giant, presumably for the world title, which would be an interesting matchup, and then an 8-man tag featuring the 4 Horsemen.
It does feel like we are starting to run the well a bit dry on this whole. Here's the Giant is going to squash another big man on the roster. I'm almost certain he's already run through John Tenter on one of these Nitros. I can't
I
keep
can't.
up with all this.
I don't think.
Hashtag 5
He,
concussions. I've had 5 concussions.
yeah, he's gone through. He beat Scott Norton, didn't he?
Yeah, he beat both for Fire and Ice. Shocked I didn't
Yeah.
get told off for the plagiarism there, by the way, Dino. He had the pay-per-view match with Loch Ness, but that was on Nitro. He's definitely had a. Remember they ran a whole program where him and Luger were both facing big opponents and who could
Yeah,
manhandle or lift up the other. So they did a whole thing with that, didn't they?
yeah. Okay, Scott Steiner's now kind of taken over on both members of Harlem Heat. He's just made a cover. He just power slammed Booker T, made a cover, but Stevie Ray made the save. And
Spinner.
now Scott is going to go for a Frankensteiner on Booker T, which he hits,
Ooh.
and Booker T doesn't land on his head.
Scott Steiner did though.
Yeah,
We said on a recent, I think when we did the last pay-per-view timeline with this Great American Bash 96, we said there's evidence mounting that he should maybe retire that move.
yeah.
Is there a flying
Okay,
bulldog
Rick's
coming up?
up on the top rope going for a bulldog. Yep, he hits it.
Oh,
But Nick Patrick's not.
this is all a bit
I'm
awkward.
completely confused as to who the legal man is.
This is a oh, that's a really really lousy finish to a good match. This because that was really awkward. But to his credit, Parker's tripped Steiner up on the ropes and then added a shot with a cane, which I love because that's douchebaggery of the highest order.
Yeah, that looked far more effective than the trip. Yeah.
But to do both is brilliant. So is he back with them? Is he trying to get back with them?
Well, they're assuming that he's the man on the phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a good match, but with a storyline continuing finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just the awkwardness of that finish because they've kind of just chosen not to do the pin, to do another move that they couldn't do because they got tripped up. It just really
Yeah.
exposed it all.
Okay, so we've now got, and this is, look at this. This is all of our boxes being ticked. Mean Gene standing next to woman at the banquet table with the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, it's
I mean, what more could we ask for?
well, we could ask for less murderers, couldn't we?
Well, yeah,
Can I say that?
you just did.
It's my coping mechanism for getting through these without feeling immensely awkward.
So we're being shown how the Horsemen previously attacked Joe Gomez and Renegade, and how Steve McMichael smacked Robert Gibson over the head with the briefcase to win a tag match for the Horsemen. So it looks like we've got the Horsemen against the Rock and Roll Express, Joe Gomez and Renegade.
Yeah, we
Half
we
that's all right.
we are being told that there's a thing between Joe Gomez and Renegade, aren't we? There's some sort of backstory there. It's a bit of a half-baked storyline, but a storyline nonetheless.
Mhm.
Oh, Elizabeth actually
Elizabeth,
delivering a good line there.
yeah, she's
Ah,
been given the line, and I do believe she's in leather, Liam. So,
Liz in leather, massive fan.
they're basically saying that they've got plenty of money via Liz, via the divorce from Macho Man.
Ladies are carrying this promo so far, but here comes Arn Anderson to back clean up. He says they're not the Supreme Court, but they run the wrestling world. So he's going to be an 8-man tag, and they're hyping up well with this
Mm.
banquet table.
When we get to full strength, heads are going to roll. Tonight will be a visual aid. You've got to love an Arn Anderson promo.
The irony that we've had like a pay-per-view that's put the Horsemen back on top, back full heel, back full strength, and they're about to be eclipsed the following pay-per-view by one of the greatest heel factions of all time.
Yep.
Now
Now
we're back to
Mongo's on the
McMichael.
mic.
It was such a good promo, and then they put him on the mic.
He was all right there. I mean, it was a brief couple of lines, and we're finishing off with Flair, who's being told that Savage is in the building and being restrained.
Come on, Rick. Full amped Ric Flair play. There we go. He's already having a seizure.
Flair's up.
He's
Flair's
on the
now
table.
standing on his chair. He's going to stand on the table probably.
Please don't strip.
Yep.
DDP was joking earlier. You don't have to submit to a strip search.
So we have we've gone from a dignified, somewhat even sinister promo to Flair just going nuts.
To be fair, I've got to agree with you to an extent. I think everyone got mic time, and everyone did at worst did a decent job with their lines. And obviously the highlight, you got Flair and Anderson, and all three of the ladies punching above their weight on the verbals. Because even Woman, she was always a great manager and a great personality, but not necessarily a talker per se. I remember some of her promos in the NWA era of WCW were actually quite wretched, but she was more of a presence, wasn't she? But she did well there. Deborah was always quite underrated with confident lines, as long as she doesn't show up like three sheets to the wind, like she did at Backlash 2000. And yeah, Elizabeth was shockingly good, and Benoit and Mongo didn't stink up the joint.
Talking of stinking up the joint, here comes Disco Inferno
We're on a
with
roll,
his
Dean.
glitter ball.
Yeah, because we're going to insist on rolling forward with this Disco Dean Malenko style clash coming up at the pay-per-view, aren't we? Rob McNichol's Wet Dream, Disco versus Malenko, which it wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't great. And let's face facts, instead you could have Disco in an actual entertaining comedy match and Dean Malenko tear the house down. But hey, here we go. I always love Schiavone's long-suffering tone when he's cut off by someone like Disco. He still does a good job of that in AEW now. If the right person's like clashing with him, he gets that perfect tone of voice, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Here comes the dancing.
That's not his music.
No. Whose music is that?
As that's rather sinister.
Larry Sabisco says he's been to Japan. I'm guessing we're getting a Japanese opponent. He says he's been to Japan. He's been to the Hard Rice Cafe.
There's a different time.
Kurosawa, who has appeared
Yes.
once or twice before.
So this is Manabu Nakanishi, isn't it? I believe.
Yes.
Kurosawa.
I want to say he's done a Nitro. And did he also do Starrcade 95? Or was he not on that squad?
He may not have been Kurosawa then, or wasn't he? But yeah, he's definitely. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
He may or may not have wrestled as part of Team Japan at Starrcade 95. To be fair, the guys running WCW and actually producing Starrcade 95 on the night probably didn't know whether or not he was on the side.
No, but of course, because he's a Japanese wrestler in WCW, he has to have a martial arts gimmick.
Yes, and ominous Japanese music, which explains our confoundment there. But we should have known there must have been Japanese wrestler music.
I wasn't too bothered about the music. It was sort of more, generic, sinister heel kind of music. But it's the way that they didn't present anyone with a personality much. It was, and they were all martial arts experts. It was, I mean, I suppose the only one that was slightly different was Liger because of the costume and therefore the personality that came with that. Because as a guy under a mask, you have to do a lot more with your body to put across emotion. And then of course the Great Muta, just because of the spectacular look and the spectacular moves he could do.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, to be fair on that music, I could definitely hear some of the synths and the instruments were the usual ones they use for Japanese music. But to
Yeah,
WCW's credit, they would dip into a rotation of 6 or 7 different generic tracks, whereas the WWE, I think, just gave everyone the Orient Express theme,
Express music. Yeah,
which actually was a really good theme. But when you use it for every Japanese wrestler, it loses its gleam.
yeah. So Disco Inferno is now trying and failing to do martial arts, but he got a good pop when he kind of did a praying mantis style pose to mock Kurosawa.
Well, they're obviously trying to really put across this whole clash between silly disco and any serious wrestler ahead of where we're headed with Malenko.
Yeah,
Funny thing is this is already much more watchable because he's playing off Kurosawa quite well, and obviously this is making a Japanese impulse assignment much easier for them because they're playing into a
yeah,
simple narrative. Whereas Dean Malenko, he could mesh into any technical wrestling style, or even ones that weren't technical, but he could mesh well with any sort of actual grappling style. But he never really could mesh with the whole pageantry of it. Like even when someone would try to wrestle Dean Malenko with lots of Irish whips and back body drops, Dean Malenko would struggle and have to slow down a bit. And one of the reasons why that match with Sting from an early edition of Nitro was so good was that Sting actually worked Dean Malenko style and not he didn't force him to do the other way round. And that was always you can't slot Dean Malenko into other people's things. Not like that.
yeah. And Sting could easily in that match have insisted that Malenko work a Sting match.
Now Disco's playing.
music's playing. Yeah, sorry.
It clearly rattled us both at the same. What the?
Someone is dressed up in like an Elvis jumpsuit. I don't know who this is. The disco ball has come down.
Oh,
he's going to smash him with it.
That looked like it mildly inconvenienced him.
Yes.
And the ball's still dangling low as the referee comes back. Oh my god, that was garbage.
Who is this disco guy? Asked Shivani.
Much akin to, I don't know, Dean, a lumberjack match filled with zombies. This is the sort of thing that if it happened on the current product, you would cringe. But I suppose looking back in retrospect, we can just laugh. But that was awful. Oh man. So we are now come up to half an hour through this, and we've still got another hour of action to come, and we've had a little bit of everything so far.
Well, it's certainly moving fast, isn't it? It's not, we've said before. Sometimes they've felt like they've dragged or been filler, and so far it's been hit after hit, hasn't it?
Yeah, whether it's the good, the bad, or the ugly, and I think both of those last two you got with a Disco Inferno match. It has been watchable, and that's our metric. That is how we do this. So they showed a little clip before this match coming up. We've got Scotty Riggs coming out to the ring, and they showed a clip which I think was DDP beating down someone. I don't know if it was Riggs or someone else, and I think Marcus Bagwell rushed out for the save. So now we've got Riggs and DDP. There was no voiceover on that clip, by the way, so we're having to piece this together ourselves.
No, I don't know what's going on. I think some typical WCW production snafus, and DDP is now searching some some schmuck in the back to check that they haven't got his Battle Bowl ring.
There's always been when you
He's searching everyone. He's getting them to turn their pockets out.
when you see certain wrestlers on the same show go to such attention to detail and add little nuances and little quirks to their whole thing, and then you see other wrestlers just do the very basic poses and smiles, and it's all the same cookie cutter stuff, and it's all on the same show. There's the same wrestlers run good details and add that little effort, and the same wrestlers don't. You can only help but you can't help but assume, I should say, that Page backstage is really instrumental in adding this to his character, because it's always him who does this. It's always him that dresses in rags when he's lost money. It's always, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It's, as you say, it's putting those little details. It's we've seen this with like some of the things that Lord Steven Regal does. It's those little touches that you remember and you notice and stands you out from the crowd, as you say.
Yeah, and there's a screen of Jim Duggan denying that he's stolen the ring, but so obviously we're building to that as well, aren't we? But yeah, it's uncanny that in certain companies, and this is this current era of WCW is a great example, where we're seeing certain wrestlers put in these little details and efforts consistently, and other wrestlers are just not, even when opportunities arise. And we've read the Nitro book by Guy Evans Dean. We've heard plenty of
Yep.
accounts and stories from other people. Um, we know with enough confidence from those who are there that just how much of a mess it was backstage. So you can just tell which guys are making the effort and which ones deserve to go up the card, and which ones are just there for the cash and the ride. So when I hear all this stuff about how, Page was friends with Bischoff, who's well connected, probably was. Lots of people have to be well connected to make it there, but he put in the effort to go with the openings. There's no denying that.
Definitely, yeah.
He's been all over Riggs to start. He got in a little cheap shot early on in this match, and it's been all Page so far.
And he's conveying that anger of having his Battle Royal ring stolen. I mean, his face, this whole match, his face has been just pissed off, hasn't it?
Yeah, and another thing I'll be keeping an eye for closely is because I think we can presume with the career trajectories of these two at this point, we can assume this is going to be a Page win no matter how the rest of the match goes. But what I'll be looking out for is how the Diamond Cutter is received, because we've been watching this build up, haven't we, Dino, week after week?
Yeah, the Diamond Cutter is the move that people aren't kicking out of. He hits you with that, it's over.
Yeah, and it obviously in retrospect, it's got the whole out of nowhere, any scenario reputation. So far, we haven't seen a lot of really cool versions of it, but we have seen it come suddenly.
Yes.
And that has helped, even just to start. The variations will come and the cool counter versions will come. But for now, he's just dropping people suddenly, getting the pin afterwards. And the fans are starting to pick up on the fact that it means the end. And
yeah,
one thing
because he hasn't needed to do any counters, because at the moment the level of competition he's against aren't giving him as many problems as an upper card or a higher mid card guy would.
Absolutely, and we've seen other finishers gain traction because of that simple formula. The one I want to bring up right now, while we're in like middle of a pretty basic match, is getting the Diamond Cutter treatment. Have you seen recent episodes of AEW, Dean, where former boxer Anthony Ogogo, Britain's own Anthony Ogogo, yeah, And I love that move because for a boxer, that's actually realistic. When we've seen boxing crossovers in wrestling, you see like the uppercut and the big punch to the face, but a lot of boxing matches are finished by a vicious liver quiver body
Yeah,
shot. And it's good to see it there. And it's getting the
yeah.
same protection that the Diamond Cutter got, and it's starting to get over as a result.
And the other thing with that is he obviously knows how to throw it and make it look good because he's thrown them for real for a lot of years,
Mm.
and it makes sense for him to throw that as a boxer. It's a basic move. I mean, it's illegal in wrestling, a closed fist. That's the only logical flaw in that. But other than that, it makes perfect sense. And yeah, and if you get hit with a decent body shot, that will completely knock the wind out of you. It's believable.
Or it's as illegal as climbing to the top rope for your finisher if you're not really fast, because you've got 5 seconds and the referees
Yeah,
have to slow down their count just to accommodate that. And at the end of the day, a closed fist, and I suppose also like things like the choke slam where there's a goozle to start and you've got your hand around their throat. It's a warning, a 5 count, a telling off. A closed fist, yeah, as we know, a closed fist is technically illegal, but it's generally accepted that it's also not an immediate disqualification. It's a telling
yeah,
off. So yeah, you can get away with that, especially in modern parlance. But I think one of the main reasons to have closed fists as a you shouldn't do that thing is it just makes it when they used to do grudge matches back in the day, it would make it a bigger deal that two rivals go into the ring dressed in casual clothes with their fists taped and just trade punches for the majority. They think, here we go, look at
bam.
that pop.
There you go. Pretty much out of nowhere, and a reaction of sorts, isn't there? Look, there's people in the background, a few of them with their arms up.
Absolutely audible reaction to that. Yeah, you can see
Yeah,
individual crowd members like stand up with their arms raised, almost basking in it, and that's generally a sign of they've they've been shipping that move. They've been talking to their mates, going to the show and saying, "Yeah, I like DDP. He's cool now. I want to see a Diamond Cutter tonight." And because they've been bigging it up, when they see it, they stand up like that by themselves, don't they? And they're like to their mates, "Ah, yeah, here we go. That's what I came in. That's what I paid to see." And if you're getting that, you're connecting to the audience.
yeah. I mean, as you say, it was much more audible than visual looking at the crowd behind us. But yeah, you definitely noticed that reaction.
That was the most fluid Diamond Cutter we said. We were saying about there's not been a lot of counter ones, but he floated out of a move and hit there. Probably the best
Mm,
one to date, chronologically. We know better ones are to come. More importantly, I would say that's one of the better semi squashes I've seen. If we had to count something as a semi squash, in that he's not battered him, but he's controlled most of the match. And especially
yeah,
considering normally that he gives his opponent a lot, doesn't he, with the comedic selling? But he's doing this
he's
whole
now
angered, yeah.
yeah, he's now with Mean Gene, who says he thinks he knows who's got his ring.
So this is this is a seminal performance for him. He's coming across like more of a threat now. And as you said, the being pissed off about the theft of the ring is helping him do that.
Yeah. So this is actually, yeah, I didn't realize this is the go home show before Bash at the Beach. They said next Sunday.
As in a week Sunday, next Sunday, or
Oh, is it? I don't know. I'm
he's
just going to check.
checking me,
I
G.
think it's.
He's checking me, G.
Suspect everyone, DDP.
Oh, it's great. It really is great
Yeah,
watching wrestlers
Bash at the Beach.
segments.
Sorry, Bash at the Beach was July 7th, 96. This is July 1st. So
Oh
this is the go
wow.
home show. Before the phrase go home show was really a
Ah, this is
thing.
so we've got to remember that the whole landscape is going to change the next time
Mm,
we do a watch along. And
definitely.
I've enjoyed pre NWO WCW to an extent, especially with no Hogan around. He'd get a bit more bearable in the black, obviously, but
Yeah. And if memory serves me right, at least the first two nitros are basically just the shock of the shock of Hogan and the NWA forming.
Which itself helped because then when they did show up again, it was another invasion.
Yeah.
Add Greg the Hammer Valentine to the long list of bum wrestlers who've used the Hollywood Blondes thing.
Hollywood Blondes music, yes. Well, there were people who used it before the Hollywood Blondes, and then obviously there are people who use it afterwards. But
My
I
favourite
suppose both
non-blondes
Hollywood
one.
Blondes are in WWF by this point, weren't
Yeah,
they?
that's true. My favourite non-blonde use of it was Blitzkrieg, I think. But then I like Blitzkrieg. He was great. Oh,
I remember
wow. This is a WrestleMania 4 rematch.
Is it?
Yeah, because Valentine was one of Savage's victims as he went all the way to the heavyweight championship in that tedious tournament. Oh,
I
no,
forgot
no,
all
no,
about that.
no,
Oh,
Randy, no, don't do it.
Nacho's disrespecting the banquet
Oh,
table.
Randy.
He's throwing the candlesticks off. He's chucked a plate of fruit around.
You know,
Heinous.
we are recording this on the 10th anniversary of the Macho Man's passing. And it'd be a nice time to reflect upon what a great wrestler and what a seminal personality he was. But he's come out here wearing his carbuncles Macho Man outfit, and he's just ruined the table. And now I'm just not in the mood. He's really upset me, Dean.
He's disrespected the banquet table.
And he's wearing Ultimate Warrior face paint. He really is crazy.
Well, I think it's more Sting, but I can certainly mean Shades of Warrior, yes. So
I
here we
suppose,
go.
yeah, there's a solidarity with his team coming up.
Yeah. So is this surely a man the experience of Greg Valentine? They can just knock up a Macho Man Formula Nitro match here.
Yes. These two are going to sleepwalk through this match, aren't they? Shall we have a quick doze while they're doing the same?
And of course, Valentine never wore knee pads. She always looked weird in American wrestling. British wrestling, you're used to it, but American wrestling didn't.
Yeah. I remember when I think a couple of wrestlers like Goldberg would wear knee pads, and then he had a phase where he took the knee pads off for a little while, and it really throw me off because it just looked so weird, especially when they had worn knee pads and then they get rid of them.
Mm. And also, have you seen pictures of Greg the Hammer Valentine, like, these days, recent? And he looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's because he looks ancient in 1996.
Well, in these days, in 2021, Greg Valentine now just strikes me as the thing I remember at most is the fact that he was one of several wrestlers to come out with silly comments about women wrestlers. He said some stuff about how women shouldn't be wrestling, they should be at home and stuff like that. But he was one of the few who actually then addressed his comments a couple of years later and kind of I don't know if he retracted as much as he said since he said that he has watched women's wrestling and has to admit that they are actually doing a good job. But he also said he was he did say he would never be comfortable with seeing women wrestle because that was his upbringing. I get that, but he apologised for being crass about it and he said they are actually really good at it.
Okay.
Which is refreshing because that's a human response.
At least he's got the ability to kind of change his position a bit.
When people say really,
himself.
when people say really dumb, provocative crap, and then they come back and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that was wrong of me." I really can't. I don't appreciate them saying the crap, but I can't really take their apology at face value because it sounds like someone's, it's a PR thing, and someone's pushed them front and centre and gone apologise.
The one that always gets me is when you get people saying it doesn't reflect my views or my beliefs or something. It's like, well, it must do, because otherwise you wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just...
Either your views and beliefs are that you just chat a load of shit to get a reaction, or they are your views and beliefs and you're a bellend.
Yeah.
But even if people may still not agree with Valentine to this day, he offered one of the most human and nuanced and normal takes on it. After saying something that was out of line, he went back to it. It was on a Reddit AMA. So if you look up Greg Valentine Reddit AMA, you'll find it. You shouldn't have to scroll down too far to find the. I think it was one of the most reacted to, understandably so, questions and answers. So it's quite high up on the list, and it's a good
Okay, well,
AMA
look,
altogether for anyone who wants to check that out.
cool. By the way, this is certainly following the Macho Man formula right now, isn't it?
I'm so glad we're going off on a side conversation because this is not the time. This is not really a play-by-play podcast. That's not fun. And this is
Yeah.
even if it was, this is definitely not the time to do it.
Yeah. One thing that is worth mentioning is when Jim Neidhart toured with us at Hamlet Wrestling, I always remember we asked him who had the hardest chops in wrestling, expecting him to say Ric Flair, and he answered with Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Oh, I was going to say
I thought we were going to the end of the match there,
they were advertising
Savage got intercepted coming off the top.
they're advertising the end of the hour. So I was thinking, there's no way they're going to drop the elbow now. So that was a bit weird. It's weird timing to do it.
Yeah, they're going to wait until that second hour comes up. People might be flicking channels and see the Macho Man dropping the elbow.
Well, this match has gone a little bit longer than your typical Randy Savage squash. Might be about to finish here though. We're still on the countdown.
Referee getting time cues in his ear.
Yeah. Oh, here's the elbow. They are going for the finish bang on the hour.
Yep.
So that was the design, but it was a bit clunky. I was thinking, why would they do that? But no, they wanted to set off the fireworks to the. I was going to say, Greg Hammer Valentine, by this point in the match, is just getting warmed up. Did you know that?
Exactly. That is well-known fact, Liam.
One of my favourite pieces of wrestling trivia, I think. Along with, you have to see the Big Show in person to appreciate just how big he is.
Indeed.
Speaking of the devil, we are, or maybe not up next, so it said coming up, but we are due a giant appearance very soon.
We are indeed. So we are introducing the second hour with Eric Bischoff and Bobby Heenan. Oh, and Eric is attending some personal business. Of course, this is his first show back, isn't it?
So if you'll remember, Dean, when the storyline dropped of Bischoff joining the New World Order later on, he said he gave it some thought after he was put in the hospital. So for all we're to know now, he's actually coming round to the New World Order. He's bad-mouthing Nash for doing the powerbomb right now, but from the promo he gave after turning heel, for all we know, he's now starting to buy into the concept and is siding with the Invaders.
That is a very good point.
Lovely bit of retcon. Yeah, well, if we're going to do a retro watch-along, we might as well retcon a little. I don't think we're... Sorry if I've spoiled how this goes for anyone. You know, one of the...
Can you spoil something 25 years after it's happened?
On a podcast for die-hard wrestling fans about one of the biggest angles in wrestling history. I'm really sorry if I've given it away, but yeah. So now we're going into the hype for the Horseman. Steve Michaels says the fact that he got rid of Muck and added an S. I think maybe Bischoff has his WWE Raw monitor on again, and he's kind of seen that.
Now, what I don't get is that we've got as the focus of this Nitro main event is going to be the newly completed Four Horsemen together as a unit, and we're a week away from Bash at the Beach. Wouldn't it have been better to have Savage, Luger, and Sting in a 6-man tag?
There's a big
Something's
ruckus going
happening
on
behind.
behind.
Yeah, I imagine it must be the outsiders. Yes,
Here we
indeed
go.
it is.
And they've
Kev's
got
got a drink and
snacks.
some popcorn.
Yeah. I'm beginning to suspect that they may have tickets going by these little telltale
Yeah.
signs.
But like I said, it's always tickets in the front row. And why have they shown up just for the second hour?
Well, fashionably late, Dean, of course. Bischoff says they're not scaring anybody except for Bobby Heenan.
Yes. I'm just intrigued as to where they end up sitting. And is it the front row?
He's barging all the kids out of the way. I love that. Get out of the way, kid.
Oh, look at that. They're front row. What a surprise.
Here's the tickets.
There's Nash with his ticket.
Yep. They are, before this became a massive cliche, they are ticket buying fans and they are right to sit there.
Yep,
Obviously, it becomes a whole different kettle of fish if they hop the rail and do something stupid.
indeed. And they're offering Doug Dellinger and the police popcorn. And fans.
Remember,
Some
yeah.
fan just took some popcorn.
If I was a Nitro attendee of any other city so far since it started in '95, I'd be really hurt because these guys in Maryland are getting offered free popcorn from a star, and
Yep.
I would have only been offered free Hulk Hogan merchandise I'd be forced to wear.
Yes.
That is a raw deal.
Well, Bischoff has pointed out that he only sees two of them still. So obviously, well, as we know from going into the pay-per-view, even at the beginning of the main event of Bash at the Beach 96, there is no third man identified.
And what an atmosphere it built. We say this every time we do a watch along range time frame. Go back and check out our Bash of the Beach episode. Please apologise for the fact that we had Rob McNichol on. It goes 3 hours, but it's worth it. There's plenty of good stuff happening.
Yeah, but it's a good 3 hours. We get some great analysis and insight from Rob and yourself and me, of course. But yeah, it goes on for a long time, but there's a hell of a lot to talk about because
I
it is
would
one of the most infamous pay-per-views in wrestling history,
I would
and
go.
infamous in a good way.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, we've had some WCW infamous pay-per-views in a very bad way.
I would go as far as to say that we went 3 hours because there was that much to talk about first.
Yeah,
And then second, we went 3 hours because Robert Nichols on. Only second
because
to the first.
yes.
And it's not many podcasts, and he's been on a lot. There's not many podcasts that can say that.
Here comes John Tenter in his mix and match outfit and no entrance music. He's still got he's still got half his head shaved.
Yeah, he needs that as a reminder of what Ray Traylor did to him about 2 months and 8 John Tenter beatings ago. I did not realise until we did these watch-alongs just how one-sided that feud was. Because as I said on that aforementioned Bash at the Beach episode, I didn't think the silver dollar match between him and Ray Traylor, I didn't think it was that bad. I kind of enjoyed it. They do little things you want to see in more modern wrestling with the storytelling and the payoffs. Even though obviously they're not the most athletic wrestlers at this juncture. I enjoyed the feud ender, but it turns out Tenta had actually been thumping him every week and at the Great American Bash to the point where, I'm sure they'll do something to add a little extra heat on it after this match with the Giant. But no, the horse has bolted by this stage for me. So we've got the extra security in the aisle because we've got Hall and Nash there. Is there going to be a little
Better just
interaction here?
having some security next to Hall and Nash, although I suppose we don't know who the third man is, so we don't know where he might be.
Heenan wants to know if the the Giant can get Tenta up for the choke slam. Not only am I pretty sure it's already happened, but I'm also certain this is the only reason this match is happening.
Yes.
I still maintain what we said in that Great American Bash '96 pay-per-view, that they should have just put the belt on Luger. I know that they've built up the Giant well, but they could have just done a Ric Flair versus Vader like underdoggy. You know what I mean? Little fluke win, happy ending. Move
Not like that.
the Giant. The Giants gonna feud with the Horsemen. The Giants are heel here, and the Horsemen really been built up as heel. He's forgetting 6 days. It's the Horsemen versus Dungeon of Doom. They may as well just move the belt off of him, and then you have Luger. You know, I know he gets removed from the tag match early, but you make that Sting instead, perhaps, and you have Luger and Savage get the beatings from Hogan and the Outsiders, and there you got the title match and the first serious challenger, because of course we've got Hogan and Savage at Halloween Havoc '96, also covered already. That was a very early one.
Mm. That was the Halloween Havoc that was basically sponsored by Slim Jim.
Oh yeah, Slim Jim, Slim Jim, Slim Jim. It's a pepperami, everyone. Well, I can't say it anymore because we've got a lot of American listeners. But yeah, I can. It's your Slim Jims are pepperamis, and pepperamis are better. Sorry, guys.
I've never had a Slim Jim to compare, but pepperami is good stuff.
It's firmer and it comes in a different variety of flavors, and neither of those are necessarily a better thing.
I see.
Can't beat a pepperami fire stick. That is the goat, the greatest of all time.
Anyway, back to the action after our talk about savoury sausage snacks. Of course, the other thing with Slim Jim is it's well known, it's been said before, that the amount of money that WCW got from Slim Jim for advertising Slim Jim using Savage during their shows basically paid for Savage's deal. So they effectively got Randy Savage for free.
Which meant that WCW, unfortunately, had to find other ways to waste millions of dollars. But they did. You'll be pleased to know, guys.
They found ways.
They did it in ways that had never been conceived before. They were so good at it. Oh,
Masterpiece, Kiss Demon,
but
body slam.
I did love what you said there, though, Dean, by the way, when you went, enough talk about savoury sausage snacks. By the way, the Slim Jim deal with WCW.
Yeah, it just suddenly popped into my head.
Yeah. This has been decent so far. I've got to say, it was good to see very early on in this match, John Tenta threw a barrage of right hands at the Giant, and the Giant sold them big. And obviously, he doesn't get a lot of a chance to do that. But it's believable that John Tenta would rock the Giant because he's only a few inches shorter. He's obviously probably, at this stage, he's probably a little heavier. Paul White would soon remedy that.
John Tenta is one of those guys that when you see him in the flesh, when you meet him, he was a hell of a lot bigger than you thought. Billy Gunn's the same, and Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, guys who are for some reason don't look as big on TV than they actually are in the flesh.
Yeah,
whereas someone like the Giant obviously does because he's bloody massive.
Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, was one of those guys early on showing up in AEW to make you think, oh no, are they just going to use too many WWE rejects? But as it turns out, especially with the close relationship with Jericho and the Inner Circles group as a whole, it's used him in a way that WWE really should, because WWE wanted to use him as, you know, a regular sized guy, how they expect most guys to be sized. And he lost something as a result. But as the muscle, as the big guy of the group, it comes across a lot better because he's rolling with guys like Sammy Guevara and you know, I was going to call them LAX. Yeah, I was going to call them LA. They're not technically LAX. They were at one point.
Santana and Ortiz, yeah.
I never really liked that when they tried to roll that whole proud and powerful. Never really liked that as a team name for them. Mostly because they, up until very recently, they were heels. Maybe it'll work now. I don't know. But yeah, he's he wrestles alongside much smaller guys, and he can throw his weight around, and he can do the whole big man Godzilla King Kong thing with Wardlow, which that was an awesome match, and they'll probably have another awesome match now that they're feuding. But yeah, the size can really be taken for granted. Sometimes having smaller wrestlers around the bigger guys helps.
Yeah.
As Groove
It's
Armada
the
put it,
same.
if
Sorry?
I was going to say,
Sorry.
as Groove Armada put it, if everybody looked the same, we get tired
We
of
get
looking.
tired of looking at each other, indeed. But it's a similar psychology to why you have small referees to make the wrestlers look bigger. And
Yeah,
thinking about there's that great visual at the very beginning of the Giant v Loch Ness match from Uncensored '96, where you've got Pee Wee Anderson as the referee, the smallest ref on the roster, and the fact he's got that match is no coincidence, and he is just standing at sort of chest level to these two men looking up, and it's just such a good visual.
yes. And yeah, that can help the whole roster when they do that. But at the same time, I've never been that phased if there's a match where the referee's taller than both guys. I've heard certain provocative podcasts whine about it. Oh, look, how can I enjoy this match? The referee's taller than him. Well, funnily enough, I actually happen to feel confident in the knowledge that the referee can't hit the ropes at 50 miles an hour and he can't backflip out of a suplex attempt. So it goes both ways.
Just going back to the action in the ring, John Tenter has just hit a vertical splash off the second rope and a massive drop kick on the Giant, and he's now brought Jimmy Hart in the ring. Kevin Sullivan's come out and he's attacking Kevin Sullivan. The Giant's going up, and the end of the match is surely nigh. But that was an amazing bit of athleticism, the drop kick from the Giant. Bubba's out here now, and here we go. It's chokeslam time.
Here's the chokeslam. Did you see that? Eric says, yes, we saw it. We saw it a few weeks ago as well, I'm pretty sure. And he's going to clip him again. So yeah, I figured they were going to reheat this. He's going for the beard this time.
Beard. Go on, leave a hit moustache.
And here's Sullivan and Giant being full-fledged heels 6 days before they're going to be de facto baby faces against the Horsemen. Oh, it's such a blur sometimes. And the outsiders are going to blur it more.
I suppose you want it to come across as completely unplanned, because if I remember rightly, we'll see it next watch long, I guess. The baby faces and the heels of WCW are united against the NWO,
which I think would have made a better impact if it was super duper clear, if they're on one side of a line rather than heel versus heels before the New World Order come in. But obviously it didn't hinder it too much, but it definitely would have been more impactful had they not been running heel stuff before doing the invasions that will come on future episodes. Mean Gene's on the case for the Dungeon of Doom. Well, the Horseman got mic time earlier, so why not?
Go on, attack Mean Gene, shave his moustache off.
That'd be funny.
Just for shits and giggles.
Threatening the Horseman. Yeah, they really had to try and revive this feud because it's been so one-sided in Tenter's favour, isn't it?
Yes.
Here's the
yes.
nickels in the sock.
Dogs. There we go. We're setting up the Carson City Silver Dollar match.
The Carson City Silver Dollar match.
Yeah. A load of coins, silver coins in a sock on a pole. Whoever grabs it can use it.
So, stipulations apparently for the tag match. We know that the Horsemen get a world title shot if they win the tag match. I remember that. But
at pay-per-view.
Go on.
So yeah, they'll get a title shot if they win the match at the pay-per-view.
Mean Gene alluded to. No, it won't be at the pay per view. It'll be on an episode of Nitro. But Mean Gene alluded to a couple of other stipulations.
Never
Never.
trust a horse.
Well, dude, they're
He's
called the Horsemen. Different thing,
yeah.
but okay.
Maybe the Giant had some bad times at the bookmakers.
Yeah, he didn't do well in the Grand National.
No,
He had no faith in a female jockey. Fortunately, Dean, I did, and I was quids in.
I'm pleased for you. Really,
How'd you get on?
didn't bother.
You lost.
No, I don't bother betting on the Grand National. I'm not a big fan of horse racing.
So you lost.
Well, I didn't lose because I didn't put a bet on.
Listeners, he lost. You can tell.
I did, however, lose the Glue Factory sweepstake. That's a different matter entirely.
Yeah, I'm sure they have that for the Kentucky Derby as well over in the States, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. So, Kevin Sullivan's whittling on about something.
Oh, that's good. I mean, it's weird that they're doing a promo while Tenner's still in the ring, because you'd imagine he'd come too, but they've actually acknowledged the fact that Tenner's getting back to his feet. So everyone except for the Giant has legged it mid-interview.
Yes.
I like that. It's a good touch. And Jimmy Hart saying, "Come on, Giant, let's get out of here before we catch another bit of action. Obviously, quit while you're ahead."
Come on, the chips have just cooked.
Yeah, you'd obviously fancy the Giant to beat the crap out of him a second time, but Jimmy Hart's smart. He knows preserve his man. They got the beating on him, got the victory. Let's get out of there. Big tag match in 6 days.
Yep.
So yeah, it's not been a bad episode so far. I hope nothing ruins it. I'm not saying that in knowledge, by the way. I'm genuinely hoping that we keep on this course. It's not been bad at all.
Oh, is this a Randy Savage? Yes, it's a Randy Savage Slim Jim's promo.
Snap into it. So what's coming up this Saturday at 6:05, Dino?
Yeah. Well, we've got the American Males against the Rock and Roll Express. Diamond Dallas Page in singles action, which means a squash. Chris Benoit and the Cobra. What's the Cobra? Sting and Savage and Luger. 6-man tag team. So there you go. Sting, Luger, and Savage in the 6-man tag match on Saturday night.
There's tune-up fights, and then there's taking an assignment very late on.
Yeah, that's the day before the pay-per-view, so I guess that makes sense. But we had said that by this point Nitro had established itself as the top show.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's the flagship now. But obviously, when you got I remember Heat did a good job of leading into pay-per-views for a little while, didn't it? And it was definitely behind Raw, but they'd still have. I dare say, and we have been established as not big fans of the general Vince Russo booking style in this podcast, to the point where we've actually had a couple of followers leave us in recent weeks because we've made jokes at his expense. They'll find their nice happy echo chamber elsewhere, I'm sure. But one thing I will say, there were obviously times where he's done some effective stuff, and we all enjoyed WWE in 1998 when he had the reins on his creative input. And one of the things of the Russo era that did work was Heat was must-watch stuff, especially before a pay-per-view. It worked as a good lead into a pay-per-view. And that was one of the few times that Russo writing probably led to pay-per-view buys, because we sure as shit know it didn't.
We've got Bischoff telling us to stop the Rey Mysterio trailer because something's happening. The Outsiders have got themselves a microphone. How's that happen?
So now they're out their seats, you'd think they would they'd have every right now to kick them out, because Enzo Amore got kicked out for this.
He did.
What a tie-in. No wonder Enzo thought we could get away with this. Oh, they're over the rail. Here we go.
And security are trying to hold them back. Oh, there's lots of security. And now Savage and Sting and Luger are out as well.
Nash calling
Here
them
come the
clowns with their
clowns.
makeup.
Yeah.
Oh, big sell now for the main event.
And with Steiners are out as well. Savage is trying to get at them, but that's because Savage is out of control.
Yeah,
Him.
did you not know that Savage is crazy?
I'd heard a rumor.
Oh, and all the hills are there as well. Ah.
So we've got a bit of a face-off. There's not much of a crowd reaction, seeing as what's going on. We've got the Dungeon of Doom and Diamond Dallas Page out as well. And as Bischoff's just said, the whole WCW locker room is out putting every difference aside to face off against these people that are battling their own promotion.
Yeah, this might be playing in front of the wrong crowd because the crowd are now currently chanting Diesel.
Why is Nash chanting Attica?
I don't know. I don't know if it's some
No.
sort of response to obviously he's hearing the sort of chant he doesn't want to hear, so he's responding in. I don't know.
And Heenan saying the third guy might still be here, which is a very nice tie-in. Just reminding us that there is a third person who we don't know the identity of yet, obviously.
So this is very ahead of its time. This sort of thing. I'll say that much. That might not be helping, but the crowd really don't seem to appreciate what's in front of them. But they did appreciate the diamond cutter earlier.
Yeah. So when you say it's ahead of its time, what do you mean by that?
Well, we have not. It's 96, and we've not had a lot of these sort of angles where a couple of guys have bought tickets to sit in the crowd. Honestly, it's definitely not the first time. I'm not saying it's the first time, but it got a lot more cliche in the Attitude and Ruthless Aggression eras. That whole gimmick, and then they've come out of the crowd, and then you got faces and heels alike standing off with them to stop them from doing anything. This is definitely not the sort of thing you would expect on a early to mid 90s wrestling TV show. So I wanted to give the crowd a little bit of leeway for not expecting that and not knowing how to react, but they decided to
Oh,
entertain
fair
themselves by
play.
chanting Diesel, Diesel. So
Yeah.
they're about as entertaining, those fans, as the guys who still chant Husky Harris at Bray Wyatt.
I mean, we've had a very, very mild reaction to the Diamond Cutter. We had a big reaction to the Macho Man elbow drop. But
I
that's
thought
been
that
about it.
I thought the audio for the Diamond Cutter was good. Not as loud as the thing, but I thought it was pretty good.
And it's the Mean Gene backstage with Hacksaw Jim Duggan talking about going to the toilet.
He's found the
Oh,
ring.
in the toilet.
Oh, here we
Ah,
go.
so he's got the ring on his little finger, and he says that he would wear a bigger ring if it was his to steal.
Yeah. So this is building to Duggan and Page, isn't it?
Was that the pay-per-view match?
I believe so. And after showing so much fire in that I'm pissed off match, Page goes back to doing the comedic selling a lot and then kick wham cutter.
Ah,
DDB is just called it.
taped fist match.
I just thought I was stumbling over my words a lot on this podcast, and we've had DDB.
Here's DDP face to face. So DDP is now accusing Duggan of stealing the ring.
Oh,
and he's now taping his fist up while Page picks his ring up off the floor and has just twatted him in the head with a taped fist.
so this is just a friendly reminder that Hacksaw Jim Duggan is the babyface in this situation.
Yes, I was just about to say
Yeah.
we've had this kind of discussion before, but yes, he found stroke stole the ring, then dropped it on the floor as a distraction, tapes his fist up and sucker punched DDP.
Oh dear.
At least no one else has to be strip searched, I
Good,
suppose.
good
So
old, good, good old
blessings,
Jim.
every cloud.
So here's a classic bit of WCW entrance music. This one's been passed around a lot, and it's being used by the Rock and Roll Express this time.
Rock and Roll Express, Joe Gomez and Renegade all coming out together as one unit.
For some reason, I associate this theme most with Jamie Noble, but then I am a
Okay,
big fan of 2001 WCW, as you know.
indeed. And
Have I
Renegade
mentioned that?
looks very different. Renegade looks very different to how he debuted as the Warrior ripoff.
Yeah.
And now we have that classic Four Horsemen music. Just reminds me of Arn Anderson in the Four Horsemen t-shirt, holding up the four fingers. Led out by the three ladies of the Horsemen, Woman, Deborah, and Elizabeth.
So we can imagine who's going to win this match, but then
Mhm.
they've also got to try and keep some sort of interest in Mongo Joe Gomez. So we can do
Oh,
process of elimination and say that surely Gomez isn't going to be pinned here.
I'd imagine it'll be Renegade, sure.
Surely. But the rock and rolls are kind of just there to pick up a check and have some decent tag matches. So
Well,
there's
yeah,
no
they're
harm in
not
one
going
of
to be
them
on.
eating a fall.
Yeah, they're not going to be on the pay-per-view, are they?
Yeah. So it's going to be. You'd expect at least a decent match here, an interesting match.
We've got promo now for the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view
I
invasion.
I want to say that the build to the pay per view is a little bit underwhelming, but
I would
then
agree.
in hindsight, I suppose no one imagined that it would go down in history as being that huge. Especially when you consider the fact that if we're to believe all the stories, at the time of this Nitro Dean, they weren't entirely sure that Hogan would be the third man.
No, but even so, and if that is true, even so, you've still got the WCW debut, and I know they've both worked there before, but as far as these characters go, it's the debut of Hall and Nash, and
Mm,
that in itself is surely enough. That and the intrigue of the third man is enough to sell the pay per view. Because, I mean, let's face it, wrestling fans had, generally speaking, been conditioned to almost expect a bit of a letdown with a surprise on the
it's
pay per
true.
view, hadn't they? So I think even if you're thinking it's going to be, Lex Luger turning heel or Babel or whatever the other rumours were, the big draw is going to be Hall and Nash.
Yeah, and obviously with the hype on who's with them as well, and I'm guessing I'm trying to cast my mind back to when I was younger, but I don't think I had the capacity to ride WCW regular watching into this pay-per-view. So I didn't have that feeling of who it would be, and but I imagine those that did were probably thinking, will someone turn? You know, two out of three
Yeah,
on the babyface side were in WWE, and they're still heavily implying that, even though they had to kind of bin it off at the Great American Bash with, no, we're not working for WWE. There's
yeah,
still that tone. Luger obviously has been straddling the hill line a lot. He didn't dethrone the Giant in the end. It could be conceivable. So yeah, there's a lot of suspense because of that going into it.
yeah.
At least you can
And
rely on Ric Flair selling to get you through a Nitro.
yeah, Ric Flair and Ricky Morton is going to be like just textbook. Is
Oh, absolutely. You've got enough components here for a fun match. We've seen that because a couple of times the Rock and Roll have fought the Horsemen. I think they've done Flair and Anderson, and more recently they've wrestled Benoit Anderson. And
yes,
both times it was just very watchable wrestling, and you'd expect nothing less here.
absolutely. And you'd hope that the Rock and Roll Express will be in this match for the majority compared to Gomez and Renegade, who can
Yes.
be on a more of a watching brief as to how to do this job.
So it's good. Oh wow. So,
Benoit comes in, getting a decent pop
I
from
was
the
gonna
crowd.
say I didn't see that coming. It's not like this is a if you're in like a vocal diehard market. Yeah, Benoit was the guy who'd be getting more of a pop for his work rate. You know, places like Philly, Chicago, and other places like fair
Yeah,
enough. But this is like the middle of nowhere with a crowd that's not been particularly on the ball.
no, well, Mean Gene said that this is near Washington DC.
Yeah, obviously I had the pay per view a few weeks ago in Baltimore. Now they're back in the state.
So Benoit's now kicking the absolute shit out of Renegade in the corner.
And of course, Bischoff has just hyped the Ric Flair Conan match for the United States title, and that has definitely had zero hype on Nitro.
Oh, that's been zero, Bill. That's the first time it's been mentioned, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, that match is as cold as it seemed when you watch Bash at the Beach on its own.
Renegade hitting a couple of clotheslines on Flair, tags in Joe Gomez. Flair is selling big time for them.
It's weird seeing
And
woman not cheating.
not cheap, yeah. But thinking of Flair selling so big and making these guys, Gomez and Renegade, look great. Let's face it, when he was NWA World Champion, the touring champion, this is exactly what he'd have to do. Make the local champion, who may or may not have been a great wrestler, because sometimes it was the promoter putting the belt on himself when they had no right to, but Ric Flair would make them look $1 million
Yeah,
to give the crowd a main event.
and to be honest, it's for better or for worse that he's doing this because you do realise if you've been watching long enough, especially when we're now in the national TV era and he can't just go from territory to territory and do it in front of a complete new audience, you do realise that he has the exact same match. And
Yeah.
while I think Bret Hart was excessively crude about that, because there is a benefit to it at the end of the day, yeah, you see that he's doing the same sequences. He's slotting these guys into what he does against everyone else, and yeah. So I think there's pros and cons to it. But yeah, better to give them a lot than to give them nothing. To be fair.
I mean, Bret Hart had a similarity to his matches as well, though.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've sided with a lot of Bret Hart's opinions, and one of the things I've always appreciated is that Bret says what other wrestlers are thinking, but he doesn't have a filter, you know you're getting a real human opinion as a result. We were touching upon similar earlier. Um, but yeah, that's one of the things I probably agree with the least from Bret Hart is that I thought he was harsh on Flair, and there is a benefit to the way Flair wrestled. And yeah, you're right. You got the 5 moves of doom with Hart, and
Yeah.
he'd tweak and change it up a little bit, but he also used a certain template for the most part.
I remember when I did that speaking tour with Bret Hart, and I was interviewing him in different places, and when we started, I said to him, "Is there anything you don't want me to talk about or don't want me to ask you about?" And he said no, and then he paused and he thought and he said, "Actually, and don't ask me about. And it was just about certain people who I won't say who they were because this was said to me confidentially. But the thing was, he said, don't ask me about these people. They're people he didn't like, because basically, if you ask me, I won't be able to help myself, and I'll go off on one about them. It won't look good. And
Well,
and so that's exactly what what you're saying there. That he doesn't have that filter.
yeah, well, that leads. I know you said you wouldn't divulge any names, but given that we've had the audio of a question I asked him at one of these shows he did, where you were
Yeah.
comparing, we've got the audio on an episode. You guys go check out. It's a brilliant bit of insight. Sorry about the audio quality, but you can make it out. Um, I ask a question and his answer was extremely long, and he goes off on loads of tangents, and it began with Goldberg, which
It's
leads me
about
to
his
believe,
recovery to the stroke.
yes, it leads me to believe that Goldberg may have been one of those trigger names that he didn't want to discuss. Which obviously it's one thing that you've asked him and he's given that, but obviously when you do a
Yeah.
Q&A with the fans, you can't filter the answers.
Yeah.
And I'm not to know that he
Yeah.
was going to go on a massive run. And yeah, he wasn't a big fan of Bill's, which
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because that answer was all about his recovery, his symptoms and discovery and recovery from a stroke. Yeah.
it
But
sent him down a rabbit hole just because the
it,
start was about the fact that WCW made him work concussed, which obviously with
yes.
2021, at the time it was 2018 eyes, with any sort of 21st century eyes, we know that that was a horrific thing that a wrestling company did. But obviously it sent him down a rabbit hole of all sorts of, because he covered about 12 months of a dark time in his life, his career with that.
Yeah, it was
And
fascinating insight, and as you said, unfiltered, just really about some day-to-day things he was trying to do. But, yeah, but
And that's probably why he was happy to give those names to you and say, I don't talk about them, because
yeah,
you say bad things about them, and it's not just, oh, do I want to get caught saying bad things about them, because he already has, but he knows
yeah,
he's going to just go down that rabbit hole of, and it's a downward spiral. It just doesn't stop, does
yeah.
it? And it
But
obviously,
I will just say that Bill Goldberg was not one of those names, nor was Owen
no.
Hart. But anyway, let's go back to the match here. The Horsemen have been pretty much in control for the last few minutes here, haven't they?
And
It just
it's
feels like we're strolling towards the end.
and it's not Ricky Morton in the ring taking the heat.
No, it's Joe Gomez at the moment getting his knee worked over by Flair.
Although I will say this about Gomez, he's doing a decent job in this role. Not only that, but McMichael tagging in for the first time earlier against Gomez got a reaction from the crowd. So even
Hmm.
though we don't feel like we've seen enough of this apparent thing between these two who are facing off in singles at the pay-per-view, clearly across the broad spectre of WCW programming, Saturday night and other stuff, we know Nitro's the flagship show now, but across the realm, they've clearly done enough.
Yep, here comes Michael again in the ring with Gomez. And the reason that there's the pop for Michael is to see him wrestle is a novelty. And do you know
Maybe,
what?
yeah.
That's what you'll get at the main event with Bash at the Beach with Hall and
Yeah.
Nash. The novelty
Maybe,
of the debut.
yeah, maybe it had nothing to do with this feud at all. Maybe you're right. Which is a shame. I mean, the match sucks, so fuck it.
I mean, what I don't understand, we didn't have anything on from Hall or Nash before they got thrown out to say that they will be wrestling on this pay per view. They'll get in the ring. You'll see who the third man is. We'll beat you. Unless we've got anything to end this to tell us that it has been an underwhelming sell for a massive pay per view.
So, Flair has kneed Gomez out of the ring, and in comes a Renegade. It didn't look like there was a tag. If there was, they've completely blown the hot tag reaction. And obviously, with this crowd, they need all the help they can get. So
Renegade has slammed Flair. He's now going for something while Flair is absolutely miles away. Oh dear. I think, who was that threw the brief? Someone
who
threw
do
a
you think?
briefcase. Was it
I'll give you a
Elizabeth?
clue. I'll give you a clue. There is a Twitter account dedicated to him doing things like that.
Mongo.
Yeah,
Ah,
I'm pretty sure.
Mongo literally threw a briefcase at Renegade that missed by an absolute mile. Renegade took a bump anyway. Flair did a figure four and got the submission win. Now, knowing WCW, I would actually be surprised if they replayed that.
Would it have killed them to have just done the audible thump on the leg?
Yeah,
Because with that briefcase, it's a cool weapon that you can use, and it won't really hurt. You'll feel it, but we're gonna get some replays. We're
yeah,
gonna
you
go
got a
through
power
the
slap.
match before we get the finish, it seems. So let's see if they show it again. No, they skip it straight to the figure four, and Flair immediately reaches for ropes and/or woman, which we missed because we're still fixated on that botched big moment.
Yeah,
And another
and it looks
Horseman
like
promo.
we're ending the broadcast with the Horseman.
Oh, I don't know. We've still got 6 minutes left.
So we have.
But Michael's got the fire at least. Makes up for that horrific moment. I'm going to hype all 3 of the matches, I think, because now it's Benoit and
Yep.
Anderson up.
So yeah, it is odd that we've got the world champion in a tag team match.
They honestly might as well have got it on Lou. I think it would have made more sense to do Hogan Luger. But that's hindsight. Obviously, the angle went quite well, regardless.
Yeah.
Benoit with a half decent blurb. The
And
Horsemen
woman
are.
staring at the camera, looking menacing.
Yeah, the Horsemen 2 for 2 so far. To a person as opposed to a man, because obviously we've got a 4-3 ratio, and the ladies have been hitting their lines. But they are kind of just going over old material. Obviously, the punchlines are good, but they're doing exactly what they did at the banquet table. And obviously,
Oh,
then
here
we're
you go.
going
He's
to
talking.
prefer.
Flair's talking about Conan now.
Oh wow, must be a special occasion. Maybe we are going to get different lines.
So he is promising to win the US title. Now he's hyping up the tag match with the Giant. Nope. Flair's now talking. Mean Gene's trying not to laugh. I don't know what's going on here.
He's gone off on a massive I missed half of that. He's just gone off a massive tangent. And he's getting really pitchy with his voice as well.
Now he's dancing with women in the aisle. Give Liz a brief line, literally one line, half a line.
With
Deborah gets more lines.
honestly, it's Flair's mention of Conan that has made that and the lack of banquet table are the only 2 spot the differences you're going to find on this particular puzzle. Because
And the woman is now stroking Mean Gene's face.
they must have just been short for time. You maybe you're right. 6 minutes left of the broadcast. But apparently we've got another segment to come.
So what have we got? It must be the hard sell for the pay-per-view of some sort, surely. We're at the desk with Bischoff and Heenan.
Gonna wrap up from the desk, I'm guessing. It's a weird finish. Because
There's a security guy behind them. I don't know if you can see him between between Bischoff and Heenan, you can just see between them. There's a security guard who looks like a cross between Paul Bearer and Saddam Hussein. It's quite amazing.
Oh, I've seen it all now. It's weird though that the last match on the show. It's definitely not the sort of one you'd want to finish the broadcast on. It's a decent enough match, got some stars in there, but you normally have like a bigger match to finish a TV show, wouldn't you? And they've then had 6 minutes of dead air to fill almost, where they've had to repeat the Horseman promo, and we're wrapping up the with Bischoff and Heenan.
Yeah, I would have surely I would have had the encounter between the outsiders and the WCW locker room as the last thing. As I mean WCW is great at this at times. The chaos as you go off the air. That there's a bit of a situation. Security are trying to break it up, and the crowds are going nuts, and chaos is ensuing. Oh, so having said that, it looks like Bischoff has said something's happening backstage. He's put his headset down.
Here we
Oh, here
go.
we go. We've got Hall and Nash backstage.
They're being escorted out. Lots of security.
They're leaving the building.
Security said, all you got to do is get out of here. And Nash said, all you got to do is get a job that pays something.
How about I go buy all you guys a donut?
Nash is still doing his Vinny Vegas voice, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Because that's not how he speaks naturally.
no. He's got bad knees.
The oldest and most frail member of a big security, it's mostly like muscle bound 20s and 30s guys. A guy who looked middle aged, balding, is the one that threatens that you're gonna. What's the saying about Nash's knees? He, he made like a physical threat, and he's carrying a nightstick, but he's like he's like the least threatening of all these fake securities.
Maybe he was a. No, I was going to say maybe he's a real security and the others are indie wrestlers, but they look like extras as opposed to wrestling extras, didn't they?
Yeah, wasn't there like a WrestleMania Andre the Giant Battle Royal where there was like that female security guard who was obviously a legit security because
Yes,
she's
with
like,
Gronkowski hadn't been clued up about Gronkowski.
so it can happen. It can happen.
Indeed. Right. Well, I guess thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle.
Oh, that was decent enough, wasn't it? Well, it wasn't as good as last week, and we can nitpick on a few things, but as we said, we know that they pretty much stuck the landing on this storyline.
Yeah.
There's things you'd think where if I was producing something like that, you could be a little more coherent, but it's all nitpicking when the angle lands as good as it does in 6 days. You can cut them some slack.
Yeah.
It's very weird at the end though. You'd think the time management would be better. You'd like to think that when we watch future episodes of Nitro that it won't feel like they're struggling to fill the 2 hours because
Definitely.
what
Yeah.
what they could still. I mean, don't get me wrong, the last two have been improved from the first four, but they could easily still run such a good show with 1 hour.
Yeah. I just think, as I say, I just think they could have hyped the pay per view more, but hey, as I said, it hit anyway. So
It
so
worked
yeah.
out in the end, yeah.
Yeah. Just for comparison, over on Raw for this episode, it was a taped Raw. We had Shawn Michaels defending the WWE World Champion, or WWF at the time, World Championship against Marty Jannetty. Mankind beat Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and Goldust with Marlena beat Mark Merrow with Sable. So yeah, everything changes again next week because we enter, or the next time we do a watch long, because we enter into the era of NWA. We also enter into the era of the Disney MGM studio tapings.
Yeah, so you can tell just by the thumbnails for the next few episodes that they are in a completely different setup, and we're gonna see that. It's gonna be like we're starting all over again. It's gonna be very interesting, Dean, and I'm looking forward to the next watch along because of that.
Indeed. Right. Well, that is all from us for this week. You can go to our website, becausewcw.podbean.com, to download all of our entire back catalogue that's been running since September 2017. You can follow us on Twitter at becausewcw. You can find us on facebook.com/becausewcw. So till next time, on behalf of Liam Hatt, this is me, the Twisted Genius, saying thanks for joining us. I'll see you ringside.